Hi guys, it's Dustin. So I've talked a lot about confidence and topics related to it in the past on my channel, and I thought today I would get a little bit more specific with it and do a subtopic of confidence. I want to talk about how to be confident in front of a camera. And also I'm going to tell you guys my photo taking tips, how to pose, how I edit my photos, anything confidence and photo related I will be talking about today. So first let's start out with the mental tips. So this might be a little bit biased because I have been in front of a camera for a lot of my life. I've been making YouTube videos for such a long time, and even before YouTube videos I would still make home videos. I always loved taking photos and I always loved being in front of a camera. Granted, I didn't always look good, but I was never not wanting to be in front. Like if someone put a camera on me, I eat that shit up. I'm like, hey, I love attention. Bring it to me. And that's just my personality. What can I say? I'm an attention whore. And also I'm Asian. I grew up in an Asian household. My mom loves taking photos to brag to all the aunties and her friends on Facebook. So I've been getting my photo taken since out of the womb. But I know there are people out there who do not like the camera at all, but want to get more comfortable. And in this world of social media, it's kind of just like a nice skill to have, to not look awkward in every single photo you and your friends take together. And I think being comfortable in front of a camera and being photogenic is just a good skill to have in the future and can be applied to a lot of things. Like, nothing important comes to mind, but the first thing that did pop into my mind was taking your driver's license photo, because I recently just did that. And who doesn't want a good driver's license photo? So first tip, you need to constantly be taking photos. Getting your photo taken, and also just like photography in general, it's a skill that you need to practice, just like any other skill. So just constantly practice and take photos of yourself. Whenever you're out with friends, have them take a few photos of you. When you're out by yourself, take a few selfies. The more photos you take, the more comfortable you get in front of a camera and develop that skill and that habit. Also, if you're constantly taking photos, yeah, maybe not all of them will be winners, but a few of them will be winners. So you just gotta beat the odds. Also, candids. I think candids are probably the best photos out there because they're natural, they're just like memories usually. Honestly, some of my favorite photos of me are candids. I'll put them right here. But candids are just another easy way to take more photos and get that practice while not having to try too hard. Next tip, accept how your face looks. I hate to break it to you, but your face is your face. It's not gonna change. And I say this because I feel like a lot of us only like photos of ourselves. We're like, oh, we look good in this photo, when it doesn't look like us. And what's the point of photos if you don't look like yourself? And I think it's because we're all insecure, but we just have to accept the fact that our faces are our faces and that's just how it looks. And when we get photographed, sorry, if you're ugly in that photo, you were just ugly in that moment. Once you finally just accept your face and how it looks, it makes getting your photo taken way easier because you know what to expect. And I think that is much easier said than done. If we really think about what I'm saying is to just love yourself and accept how you look. Next tip, stop face tuning your photos. I used to face tune my photos early high school, and a lot of my friends did too. And I remember it was more popular a few years back, though I feel like most people don't face tune their photos anymore, but if you still are, I would recommend not doing that anymore. Obviously do what you want. I can't control you, but it's not gonna help build your confidence. When you facetune your photos and then you look back on all your photos that are facetuned, you're like, oh my gosh, I look so good in this. And then in the future, when you take more photos and you look at yourself saying like, ew, and then you hate yourself and compare yourself to your older photos, it's because your old photos are fucking fake. You didn't even look like that. You facetuned yourself to look like that. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the last tip I had with accepting how your face looks. If you stop facetuning your photos, you'll learn to find the beauty in your face, and you won't build this, I don't know if I should call it body dysmorphia, but if you facetune your photos, you're gonna think your face actually looks like that when it doesn't, when you edited your face to look like that. I say it's okay if it's minor fixes. Like if you got a zit that day, smoothen that out. Like that's fine. That picture is forever, but acne is not. So it's understandable. Or if you need to edit something out in the background or edit like a stain out of your clothes, like that's fine, but I'm talking about when you edit your physical features. Stuff that alters how you look drastically. Obviously know your angles, where you feel most confident. I love a good left side, but I also love a good right side. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but mostly I tend to like turn to the left. I love a good like, you know, downward, upward, you know, just know what you like. Learn how to do natural poses and utilize movement. I don't recommend doing standstill poses. Those aren't very photogenic and they kind of look awkward. Like a peace sign or like a hand on hip action. Models, they don't just stand there. I mean, I guess they do for certain situations, but most of the time I notice models always are moving and doing natural poses, even if they feel unnatural and they're like weird. It's just better to constantly be moving. Here are some really easy beginner basic poses that I feel like everyone can do. You can also combine some of these to create new poses. First up, lean on something. Whether it's the wall behind you or anything else in your vicinity, leaning on something looks effortless. Next up, very similar, the sit and lean, the off-guard walk, the the crossed arms behind the back, the kick, the crossed arms, bonus points if you cross your legs, the hands up in the air, and lastly, this can turn into many different poses, but hold or touch something. Whether it's a coffee cup, whether it's a cigarette, whether it's you pretending to fix your clothes or fixing your hair, if you're holding or touching something, you no longer have to think about what to do with your hands, and also it looks very natural and organic. I think the main key factor in posing is using your environment, especially if you don't know how to pose. Also, use natural movement, create lines with your poses, and don't be afraid to take up space. Also, your eyes are very important when you're posing. If you want to look kind, you want to look fun, you want to look relaxed, have your eyes be a little wider. If you want to have that like modelly, smolder, relax your eyes and have them drop. Next tip, follow Instagram accounts that look like you. This kind of goes out to my POC out there. When I say look like you, obviously I just mean your ethnicity or your race or whatever. People you can see yourself in. Obviously in media, it's a lot of white people and there's not a lot of representation, and that can affect your confidence. So try to make an effort to follow people who look like you, because it will help you find beauty in yourself. For me, I follow a lot of other Asian people. In the past, there's the stereotype on Asian men that they're just not appealing, but I feel like with this rise of like K-pop, just more Asian representation as well, it has really helped me build confidence in how I look and taking photos of myself in videos and putting myself online. My last mental tip, don't be embarrassed when you're getting your photo taken, and take your time. I still struggle with this sometimes. When I'm taking photos, I get embarrassed and end up rushing the process, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. And I'll just like pose and be awkward and take really fast photos. I end up with just no good photos. This is when I'm taking photos in public and there's like a lot of people around. Embarrassment is fake. Simply just have to choose not to be embarrassed, because you are the one choosing to be embarrassed. Embarrassment is all up to you. You have to ask yourself, do I want to take some great ass photos of myself right now? Or do you want to get embarrassed by these strangers you will never see again and not take any photos? It's up to you, just saying. The next time you get your photo taken and there's people around, just relax. Take your time to pose. Check if you like the photos. Have your friend take more photos of you. Act like no one else is there. Speaking of taking photos, let's get into my photo taking tips. I recommend turning on the grid on your iPhone camera and utilize rule of thirds. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a grid on my phone. You go into settings, you can turn it on. This is extremely helpful to get the perspective right, and also when someone's taking your photo, it's easier to guide them with the grid. And if you know anything about photography or art, you know rule of thirds is extremely useful. Also, you just Google it. It's not that hard to understand. Next tip, know what you want. When you get into a situation, you're asking your friend to take a photo of you, you have to know what you want the photo to kind of look like, and you have to guide them. Don't just give your phone to your friend and expect them to know what you envision in your head. What I usually do is I tell my friend to go where I want to get my photo taken, and I take a photo of them to show them what I want to look like in the photo. When I went to Disneyland a few months back, I only had my sister take photos of me, so I took a photo of her to show her what I wanted, and look at the photos. They're not bad for an 11-year-old. Next tip, spam that shit. Tell the person taking your photo to spam, because you never know. They might miss the moment where you look fucking amazing and they missed it. And I've actually had to deal with that a lot in the past, where like my friends would not spam the photos. Somehow I take photos of my friends and they look amazing, and there's like so many photos to choose from. They take mine, why am I blinking every photo? Next, experiment and be unique. Try not to fall into the cycle of doing the same thing. For me, I kind of went through this a few years back where all my photos looked the same. It would be very symmetrical, me in the center, it'd be angled down, and usually it was like a sunset or something. And like the photos, yeah, they look good, but they were all basically the same and they weren't interesting. And after a while, that can get boring. So switch it up if you can. It'll help you in the long run. And if all goes wrong, don't worry, because you can always edit your photos. Now I'm gonna show you how I edit my photos. So I've gone through a lot of different phases when it comes to editing. As time passed, my style and what I like changed. I used to really love heavily editing my photos, and now I've kind of pulled back a little bit, and I actually am more into just natural looking photos now, very minimal editing. Sometimes I don't even edit my photos at all. So I'm just gonna show you guys how I edit my photos presently. I've already picked out a photo that I'm going to edit. I've actually already have edited this photo in the past, so I kind of already have an idea of what I'm gonna do. But basically it's just a cute little photo of me when I went to this like lavender festival. So first things first, I crop and change the perspective if needed. This is what I do first to kind of prep my photo to see what, you know, I'm gonna actually be editing, what the photo's actually gonna look like. So I just edit directly on the Photos app. So first I'm gonna change the perspective and stretch the photo out a little bit. This is a really useful tool if you don't like the angle the photo is taken at, and also if you want to elongate your body and make yourself look a little taller. It's especially good for my short kings out there, aka me. Sadly, I wish I was taller, but you know what? That's for the universe to decide. Do not go too crazy with this though, because it can be obvious and look unnatural, unless that's the look you're going for. But for me personally, I want it to still look like me. I don't want to catfish people into thinking I'm this like 6'5" person, you know? And then I'm going to crop it, cut out my jorts because I'm not feeling the jorts in this photo. And then I'm just gonna move myself towards the left a bit. I swear cropping a photo can save a horrible photo and make it look a little bit more interesting than it was originally. Now it's time to get into the actual editing process, which brings us to our sponsor, Epic. Epic is a free editing app and it is so useful. It has so many features that I'm about to show y'all today. So put up the photo on Epic. So first I'm going to go into adjust. We are going to sharpen the photo. I don't do this all the time, just when I feel like it and whether I think the photo needs it or not. But I feel like Instagram lowers your quality a bit when you post a photo, so I add sharpness to kind of combat that. I think that looks okay, a good 5. So now it's time to play with the lighting. Every photo I edit a bit differently. It's sort of unrealistic to edit every photo the same because the lighting can be different, the colors, the vibrancy can be different. So when editing photos, you have to take in consideration what the photo is originally. For this, the photo is a bit bright for my liking, and I tend to like my photos a bit more flat. So I'm gonna go into highlights and turn it down to about like 20. I try not to go too overboard with the levels of editing. I usually never go past like a 30 on any editing feature, but you know, depending on the photo. So I'm just gonna start with 20. That looks like pretty good to me. And then I'm going to go into shadows. Maybe a good 10 seems pretty good, or more, maybe a 15. And then I'm gonna go into brightness and turn down the brightness a little bit, maybe by like 10. As you can see, there's a big difference. Here's the before, here's the after. It's much flatter and not as bright. After that, we're gonna start playing with the vibrancy and the color. This photo is a bit too cool toned for my liking, so I'm gonna go into warmth and turn that up a bit because I usually like warmer photos. I don't know why I don't like cool tone photos. It just seems very gray and eerie and not as comforting, especially for like an outside naturey photo like this. I would like it to be more on the neutral to warm side. Also, when I took this photo, it was midday, so the lighting was extremely harsh. I originally would have liked to take it during golden hour, but the sunset's so late now, so by adding warmth, it kind of helps give that kind of illusion. After that, I'm gonna go into tint because I feel like this photo, especially my skin, has a bit of a green undertone, which I don't like. So I'm gonna increase the red ever so slightly. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I edit the photo levels by 5s. I don't know why, I just don't like editing photos like an 8 or 7 or something. I'm just like, go for the full 10. Go for the full 15. And then I'm gonna go into vibrance and turn that up ever so slightly because the colors in this photo are looking a little bit dull, but don't go too crazy when it comes to saturation and vibrancy. That can make it look very unrealistic. And again, I go for very natural, oh, I didn't even edit this photo. So that's pretty much it for my editing process when it comes to actual like colors and lighting of a photo. But now I'm gonna show you guys the cool features of Epic. This photo, I do have a little bit of acne. And like I said previously in this video, I don't mind editing out blemishes. Of course, there's nothing wrong with acne, and if you don't mind it, leave it in. But for me personally, in this photo, I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. So I'm gonna go into portrait, click skin, and there's so many different features. I'm gonna personally just use smooth and do the manual because I only want to smoothen out certain parts of my face. Just smooth it on out. Also, I look a little bit shiny. Gonna smoothen this out. Nothing wrong with that. And just like that, we are done editing this photo. Here is the before, and here is the after. As you can tell, I don't do too much. Honestly, this is probably the most I will edit a photo these days. Half the time, I usually just post it the way it is or turn down the highlights, turn up the shadows, and call it a day. But when I notice a photo needs a little extra TLC, this is usually what I'll do, more or less. I did want to highlight one more specific feature of Epic that I think is so useful, and it is the remove tool. So for example, I have this photo of me at the beach, and as you can see in this photo, I have a bunch of stuff. You can see my friend's towel, you can see a plastic bag in the background that had banh mi in it. It's just a lot going on, and I want that to not be there. I want it to seem like, oh, I'm on a freaking private beach that I own and no one else is there, and I'm just reading by myself. Yep, because I'm rich like that. And I just want to pretend and live that Pinterest fantasy. So to do that, I'm gonna grab the remove tool. All you do is zoom in on what you want removed, draw over it, and bam, magic, it's removed. If you don't like how it looks, you can always just go in again and draw until it looks a bit more natural to your liking. And then once you zoom out too, like for this photo specifically, it's not that noticeable if you zoom out. And then I'm just gonna do that with like everything in the photo. Like here's the before, and then the after. Now it just looks way better. If you would like to try out Epic, you can download the app using the link in the description box. Thank you, Epic. Also, I love Polaroid photos, and I don't use any certain apps or editing or filters to get the Polaroid look. I just take the photos with an actual Polaroid, and then I scan it on my phone, and I post it. So that is pretty much all. Hopefully you guys now feel a little bit more comfortable taking photos, feel a little bit more confident in yourself. Take some bomb-ass photos, that's all I have to say. That's all I want for you guys, actually. Just for you guys to have some bomb-ass photos to show your kids when you're older, and just be like, yeah, I look like that. Actually, you know what I want? I want your future kids to make those TikToks that people make now of their parents where they're like, look at how hot my parents were when they were younger. Even though it's a little bit weird because like, are you attracted to your own parent? But anyways. Okay, bye. Are we singing the outro song right now? Yeah? Okay. Was it something I said? Oh, fuck.